It is January 5th, 2021, the first time we're saying that here as we welcome you into Coronavirus Inside the Arizona Numbers, where we help you better understand the data as it comes out of Arizona so that you can make the best choices for your family and your life. I want to reintroduce everybody here. I'm Katie Rammel from ABC 15. Alongside me, Garrett Archer, our data analyst, and we're going to jump right into the numbers. Boy, Garrett, we have so much to talk about today. I know that we haven't been able to provide an update since last week, which is last year, and of course a lot of new numbers that need some perspective have come in these past few days and throughout the last week. So let's get right to it. We'll start on that summary page where we always do, just to provide a good recap for everybody on where we are right now. And as we do so, I know we concentrate on Arizona numbers, but we have just passed 20 million cases here in the US, so that's of note. All right, how are things looking today on the Arizona summary page, Garrett?
All right, so on the Arizona summary page, let's see if I can bring this a little closer for everyone to see. 5,932 new cases reported. The number, though, that is the important number to look at today is the number of deaths, 253 deaths. That is by far the record in Arizona as far as a reporting day. Now, some caveats with that, of course, is that this number comes on the heels of the holiday season where death reporting was very, very low. And so this is essentially folding in a lot of reports that otherwise would have been not as high as this, but still fairly high. This does still bring us close to our 7-day rolling averages for both new cases and for number of new deaths are now at, they're not at record highs, but they're the second highest level that they have been. And this is coming on the heels of also a lower reported number of tests that are coming in constantly. So our number of tests that are coming down, the number of tests we're seeing are coming down, the number of cases we're seeing are going up, and the number of deaths we're seeing are going up.
So one thing that got a lot of attention yesterday, and we don't need to leave this graphic to talk about it, but just overall on DVOC 91 or 91 DVOC, and we'll spend some time on that a bit later. But we were showing up in Arizona as the worst in the country. That's for cases, Garrett?
Yes, I think someone just said it was hard to hear me, so I'm going to bring everything a little forward. Hopefully that's a little better.
Yeah.
Yes, so when we look at basically 91 DVAC, and we've gone to it before, and we'll go to it again, but it basically does a 7-day sort of what the case ad has been for the last 7 days, and it looks at all the jurisdictions that are being tracked by Johns Hopkins University, and that includes sovereign states outside the United States as well as the 50 states. And what we saw yesterday is Arizona does have the highest per capita rate of new case ads for COVID-19 in the world right now. We were at about 111 today. The next lowest was California, and then we started getting into some Eastern European countries. But as far as what Johns Hopkins University tracks, right now Arizona is the highest jurisdiction as far as
hot spot. Yeah, on the planet. Okay, as we look at this number of new deaths at 253, and are we able to plug them in on a chart that lets everybody sort of see the dates? So as these numbers come in and the holidays sort of mess with the time frame on when things are being reported in, can we help everybody better understand how that curve looks right now?
Yes, I will. I'm rebooting my my normal graphs, but what I can do is put you onto this just the standard COVID-19 death chart right now. What we're looking at while I'm waiting for this to reboot. So this particular graph, what we're looking at is the epi curve graph. So this is. Sorry, I'm kind of talking and trying to do two things at once as I try to render my graph. But this is the epi curve graph. So this is where everything actually does show up on the curve. So as we've talked about before several times, this is not a situation in which 253 deaths came overnight. They have been folded into the last 3 weeks. We now have a situation which December 17th is the highest. Excuse me. My apologies.
Bless you.
Thank you. December 17th is the peak day for deaths now. It just surpassed today, July 17th, which was our last peak death day, at now 105 deaths. But those deaths that we saw come in were folded into basically the last 3 weeks. 85% of the deaths, in fact, came from December 20th or newer.
Well, it's wild that date, it happens to be the exact same, December 17th passing July 17th, because these curves look very similar. We were hoping that we wouldn't see a winter surge, Garrett, that was as strong as the summer surge here in Arizona, but they're shaping up to look very, very similar at this point as we see these dates fill back in. Some of these deaths that were counted were from certificate matching, and that can be looking back at some of those cases. Do we know how far back, or did the Arizona Department of Health indicate how far back some of those death certificates were being surveilled at this point?
So I'm trying to get to that, but what I'm seeing is that the death certificate matching that was done for this particular file was fairly routine. This was not a situation in which they did anything special on their death certificate match. It's essentially the same one that they've always done. And it basically gave us the same number that we would normally, again, typically see for this is about 3 to 4 weeks back is where the deaths were coming. And that's, again, what we saw.
Okay, so one of the more hopeful notes in all of this is, of course, the rollout of vaccines. Now, that's going better in some places than it is in others. We are just passing 100,000 vaccines given out here in Arizona. It is below what they had hoped to, first of all, receive here in Arizona to give out, and also below what they had hoped to have put into people's arms at this point. So 101,000 people already getting the vaccine here in Arizona. We only have 2 counties that are already in the second phase. So you have phase 1A, 1B, 1C, and so on from there. So Gila County and Pinal County are the only 2 of the 15 Arizona counties that are showing up in phase 1B at this point. That means they've gotten through that first group and are already working on that second group. But Garrett, this is far below what they hoped, and they also indicated that they would have a one-stop database sort of set up for everybody to follow these numbers. At this point, they're sending them out to the newsroom and keeping us updated that way. But 101,000 is far below what they had hoped.
Let me bring that up so everyone can see it. They are now, we talked to AZDHS, and they're going to be giving this data to us at 11 o'clock every single morning. And this is the vaccine rollout, daily updates on what's going on with the vaccine. This should be converted into a dashboard at some point in the future. In the near future is what I'm told. So this is where we are right now. As you said, 101,000 vaccines have been distributed. The majority of them in Maricopa County, 60,000 in Maricopa County, 20,000 in Pima. However, the counties that we have right now that are in the next phase, which would include sort of a larger group of population, are Gila and Pinal counties. Maricopa and Pima, where the vast majority of the population is, still remains in the 1A phase.
Yeah, so if you want a closer look at this infographic put together by AZDHS, I've posted it over on my Facebook page. You can find that at facebook.com/news from Katie. If you want to share that or take a closer look at some of those numbers or the county where you are, you can find that. We're not anywhere near at this point moving into phase 1B here in Maricopa County where we're reporting from. It'll be a few weeks before we get a little bit closer to that, but you can see 60,000 total vaccines administered here. So we're looking at much later in January for that to arrive. All right, as far as cases go ahead, Garrett. I saw you're going to say something.
I was going to say, and we have no indication from Maricopa County Health Department as to when we're going to be going into 1B. They just said we haven't heard anything. We just don't know yet. Obviously they're going to tell us the second that we move into that phase, but we don't even have a timeline from them.
Right.
At least I don't know. We may have a timeline, but I don't know of it yet.
No, the ballpark that we've heard is just later this month at this point. And of course, everybody's waiting to find out how to sign up. And I know we're hearing from so many people saying, well, I called my doctor's office and they have no idea. We're not even to that point yet. So we're not even to 1B yet. So I just want to remind everybody of that. We're a ways off, and we will, of course, keep you updated as we find out how you can sign up, how you can get registered on that website, how you can go to one of those pods to be able to get your shot. Okay, as far as some of the headlines that are coming in, I do want to give you another piece of good news. We told you about Chief Williams at the Phoenix Police Department. She is returning to work. We told you about her COVID diagnosis. Was it last month? I believe we updated everybody on that. We just received word a little bit ago that she is now returning to work. Some other big changes around the world as well. Of course, we've talked about some of the lockdowns that they've seen. We are not seeing that here. In Germany, they have extended the lockdown to the end of the month. In the UK, they are now just on day 1 of a 6-week lockdown that's happening there. So, at this point,
an important note on that UK. So someone, when we had reported that that Arizona had the largest COVID-19 case
Mhm.
growth in the world, someone had pointed out to me that the UK does have their own COVID-19 tracking for their equivalent to states. They aren't really equivalent to states. They're more regions in the United Kingdom,
Mhm.
and they were saying, look, these are much higher. So what basically there are areas in the United Kingdom that have a significantly higher COVID-19 per capita number than Arizona or literally anywhere else in the world right now. But they're not tracked by John Hopkins or any of the the data tracking firms, simply because they are not they're not a sovereign state in any sense of the way.
Mhm.
In the United States, obviously, our states have their different governments. These sort of provinces in the United Kingdom do not have different governments, so they're not since they're not a federal system, they're not tracked separately. So there were some areas in the United Kingdom where their numbers are just astronomical right now.
Yeah, and part of the changes there is, of course, the variant. And I want to update you all. We now have 4 cases of that variant of COVID-19 in the United States. The latest case coming in New York, a man in his 60s there who's showing up with that. So the real rush here is to vaccinate as many people as we can. Now, think of this: if we have 330 million people here in the U.S., if we vaccinated 1 million people a day, it would still take almost a full year to achieve that status, to be able to get everybody vaccinated. And that is why the rush is on before we see more cases of these variants. Garrett, I want to update some more things. I want to make sure that your computer is working once again for
Yes,
some of those graphs.
I had to do some quick on the fly adjustments. I'm working
that
again.
that is okay. Start wherever you want to start with some of those numbers that you were pulling from the past week as you've got your computer up and running again.
Let's see. I was going to start. Well, I'm not going to start with it. We'll go to the Maricopa map at some point. But let me just kind of run down our basically the data report that I give to the newsroom.
Perfect.
And we'll go over some of this stuff because this really does help kind of encapsulate what we're looking at here. So there are some. I had to remove a couple things to make it work. So
that's okay. Whatever you do to get the workaround going there at home, we understand.
So this is what we're talking about as far as our number of deaths today. Number 1, 7-day case average. Number 2, 7-day death average is at number 2 at 96.7 a day. So we're almost at over 100 deaths averaging a day. Our inpatient COVID-19 utilization is a peak again at number 1. Our ICU COVID-19 utilization is again at a peak at number 1. Our emergency room department visits are just a little lower than that. Here we can see what our percent positivity rate is doing right now. That's this chart right here. You can see that there was a time when we were talking about this, Katie, when we were doing this as the positivity rate was leveling out. It's no longer leveling out. It's going up by a pretty decent number here. It's now at about 26%. It was at about 20% about 4 or 5 days ago. So,
and that's a statewide number, Garrett, the 26%?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and then we go to the age groups. You can see the age groups right now. And I haven't been highlighting age groups for several weeks now, simply because the growth is communal and systemic across all age groups. So there's very little difference between how things are progressing. It's not a situation anymore where we're saying, oh, a larger percentage of 20 to 44 are getting infected and carrying it over to 65 plus. While that might still be happening, everybody is being infected about the same rate at this point.
And when you have the difference listed there, that's a day-to-day difference?
Yes, that's today's difference. That's what we saw today. So 2,600 20 to 44-year-olds, about 853 65 plus. This is a high-risk group, and then about 950 under 20. So
yeah, that last number is the group that we're obviously concerned about most.
Yes. And then another thing to note about this, what we're looking at right now is, and it might be a little hard to see for people, but Yuma 85364, which is Yuma City zip code, that zip code now is the first zip code in Arizona to cross the 10,000 mark. So that means that that particular zip code has had more than 10,000 cumulative COVID-19 cases since the beginning of the pandemic.
Wow.
And that's followed by the other zip code in Yuma County, which is 85350, which is Somerton, which is a border zip code, and that one's at 8480. So 20,000 just in 2 zip codes cumulative in Arizona. So that's something of note.
Garrett, will you spend a little more time on those zip codes? I know that
Sure.
since we haven't caught up with everyone in the last week, I see that Tucson, Pima County coming in at number 3, but that
Yeah.
whole list is fascinating there. If you wouldn't mind going through those a little more,
Sure.
because it's so small on people's phone
Sure,
screens.
sure. And I can't zoom this in, so I do apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
85706 Tucson, that's 7,500 cases cumulative. Maryvale and Phoenix, 85033 is the next at 6735 cumulative. 85041, which is in Phoenix, is the next at 6674. 85008 in Phoenix, 6532, followed by Chandler, 85225. 6310 is their cumulative. Maryvale, we've already seen a Maryvale, and here's the other one, 85035. That is 6209. And then a new one to the list, 85202, a huge spike in 85202 today, and that's at 6,087. And then 85204 is 5985, and that's in Mesa. Those two last ones were in Mesa. And I'm talking about that 85202. This is what I'm talking about. Just today, 709 cases were added to 85202.
So the difference between those two lists, that's the top 10 cumulative and the fastest growing in the second section.
Yeah, this fastest growing this is what's happened this week. So
Okay.
this isn't the, or excuse me, this is what's happened today. Cases today. I'm going to change these column headers to make them a little easier. So this is what's happened today, and this is the highest of the week. So obviously, all of these, we're at the beginning of the week, so all of these are, we didn't have a zip code map, I think, get published yesterday. So that's why we're seeing the cases and the highest are all the same right now.
Okay.
Today was the highest, and tomorrow it might still be the highest, or this number will change. And like, say, for example, in 85202, this one, 709, may be lower, but this 709 won't change because that's the highest for the week.
So again, if you would read through those those zip codes too, I think it's so helpful to everybody. And again, we apologize for the different graphs today that are making it a little smaller. Yeah.
So 85202 is at 709, and that's again Mesa. And these are things that happened today, by the way. 85706 305, 85364. Those I believe are both Tucson zip codes. 276, 85041 249. 85225 in Scottsdale, 246, 85033, 244, 85345, 241, 85383, 233, 85035, 226, and 85037, 223. So a lot of Tucson and Phoenix zip codes on there.
Yeah, and we just want to stress those are cases, not the outcome of the cases. So
no, we don't have anything to that effect on these numbers. Everything we get for zip codes are reported cases. They don't give us anything else as far as deaths or hospitalizations by cases or by zip codes. So we simply do not know that.
I just want to pause for Madonna's comment there. Madonna, thank you. She writes, "Thank you for the drama-free data delivery. We really appreciate what you do." Madonna, thanks for that comment. That's what we strive to do here, is just to help you guys better understand the numbers so that you can make the best choices. So thank you. And you're welcome, I should say, for that compliment. Okay, so mobility. This was
Mobility.
I'm so curious to see this because we wondered what would happen over the holidays, and then maybe even a bigger surprise over New Year's Eve. How are things looking?
So we can see that obviously this graph, this is the entire pandemic, but let's just focus on December. This is Christmas. Christmas dropped to nearly 1. There was very little movement on Christmas Day, obviously. But you can see we are trending very aggressively downward right now. The most recent number I have is for January 2nd, and that has a net index value of about 38. We're coming onto the point, in fact, we're only 2 months away from this being a year-long graph, which is very interesting. And we'll see what happens now that we're outside of the holiday season. Now that we're at January 2nd, we're coming to the point where, in fact, in 2 more days when this updates, we're going to be sort of at the working, when people went back to work, and we're going to see what it does to change this graph at that point.
Yeah, that'll be so interesting to see. Claire is asking, do you plan to add vaccination data? Thanks again for your data analysis. Claire, we talked about vaccinations a little bit earlier in this broadcast, and I want to mention you can find a graph that helps a little bit over on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/news from Katie, if you want to steal it from there, or rewind this broadcast once we post it officially after we're done. So we will update you on the vaccines out of the state of Arizona every single day we do this from now going forward. So we are committed to keeping you updated on that. We did pass 101,000, so wanted to highlight that. Okay, back to where we were with these epi curves.
I'm going to go right through these. So this is the epi curve for the cases, and you can see that we were sort of climbing very slowly over December, and then as you can see, this is a massive increase to the order of what we saw in November to December, even more so, in fact, for what we're seeing in January. So we're seeing like essentially a 40–50% increase on the day-to-day numbers in these most recent numbers we're seeing, and that's caused the that's causing the 7-day rolling average, which is the yellow line, to just really aggressively accelerate back up to where it's almost at where it's past the peak of where we were in middle of December.
Yeah, it's an interesting dip there, Garrett. Yeah, that brief dip. Will that level out, or is that some?
No. Yes, I think it will level out, but I think it also has to do with. I mean, really, let's because this is date of collection, right? So
so the holidays.
A lot of people getting tested on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve, unless they had to go to the hospital. So I think that dip is going to stay there because we're not going to see a lot of people getting tested in that time frame right there.
And by that we might see a similar dip from New Year's Eve and New Year's Day if those collection sites weren't open again as well. Okay.
Correct. So I have a little error here, so ignore this case added 7 days. I have to fix that. But you can see the cases, the vast majority of them were added on the 27th, the week of December 27th. 5,500 of them of today's cases were added on that week. Very little movement outside of that. This is what our testing looks like, and we talked about how our testing, you can see the 7-day average is just plummeted right now. But even with that plummet, if we just kind of look at the pattern here, we were going up, and now we're sort of going back down right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this testing graph. Obviously, as we talked about, all of the tests, and we've seen this a lot, where all of the tests now, the negative tests and positive tests, are being dumped onto the system, and then they're being converted to cases. And you can see that right here. There's in fact no case data or positive test data outside of the week of December 27th. It's all deduplications after that. And this is the death curve, and this is what I was trying to get to. So this is and you can see with those 253, the light blue is what was added today. And you can see the vast majority of them was added in the last 3 weeks. There is a significant drop-off right now, but that doesn't really mean anything because there's incomplete data for the last 14 days or so. But we are past our peak in our 7-day rolling average right now. And it looks like we will continue to do so because more deaths will be added into these areas.
So with this yellow line, Garrett, I mean, you think that dip will stay?
No, I think that dip will even out. I don't think it's going to go. It's going to eventually go back up. It might have a dip for a moment. In fact, it may look like this for about 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4 days. But as we add more data to this, that dip will start to smooth out and it won't decelerate as much as it does.
Yeah, these numbers have seemed to sadly still hold strong.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. The most of the deaths today were added from the week of December 20th. So the sad thing is the 124 of these deaths that were added today died basically around the Christmas holiday from 20th to the 26th. So I mean,
Garrett, that's the thing that we talked about back in Halloween time when people were making choices about Halloween, and we're like, look, if this data holds true, you're going to start losing people through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, and these high numbers through Christmas.
Yes,
it's so sad. So sad to see.
All because of the way we know how the disease progresses. Most of these deaths are coming from diseases that were contracted around Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and so that's just the way it looks like right now, and we're going to see something very similar in the next 2 to 3 weeks from Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we continue down. I haven't completed that one yet, so I'm just going to go to hospitalizations. This is our hospital assets for inpatient. You can see we're at a record number for inpatients right now for COVID-19, as well as this is the number of available hospital beds. You can see it continually going down. And then again with the ICU, the same situation, just skyrocketing numbers of COVID-19 patients in the ICU, taking beds from the non-COVID-19 patients and putting stress basically on our ICU numbers. They're trying desperately to keep this from going down any further. That's so obvious. And then finally, are active case numbers. So this is basically the best we can do for recovery. We cannot report recovery numbers because we simply do not know what a recovery is. AZDHS hasn't published a definition. So this is basically active cases, so cases that are either under 14 days old or under 27 days old. And that's 84,000 people in Arizona are walking around that have cases under 14 days, which means there are very likely infectious cases, those 84,000. The 178,000 are included into that 84,000 number, are included in that 178,000. Plus, there may be some additional of that 178 that are still infectious. So really, our infectious number is anywhere from 84,000 to 178,000. All of our other cases, somewhere between 389 to 483,000, are basically inactive cases at this point.
Yeah, that helps us though to get a better understanding. I mean, it was only in August and September when we were seeing numbers as low as 19,000 active cases around Arizona. And boy, how things can so quickly change, as we've seen here in Arizona. We haven't had much time for some of the questions, and if I apologize for that. We'll try to get to more of the questions. We just have so much to cover since we haven't done this in a while. What about our R naught, and where is Arizona lining up when we look at an entire nation as far as spread goes at this point? I believe it was around 1.11.
Yeah, it's going to stay at around 1.1, 1.1, 1.15 probably right now. It's getting a little more stable. It was really during the holiday reporting, this number was probably not very
as accurate as it could be. Yeah,
very inaccurate. Yeah, now it's probably a little closer to where it should be. You can see they have us pegged at 1.11. You've got the legacy right here, New York at 1.17, and then Florida at 1.16 at the top. Brent always wants to know about Iowa. Iowa's at 1.12, but here we are at 1.11. You can see there are a few states that are in the 0.99, but what I would say about that is right now be cautious if you're in one of these states, only because this could still be a lot of holiday reporting. And this doesn't mean that the virus is going down yet. Because if you remember, I know we weren't covering this at the time because we were both on vacation, but Arizona was at like 0.93 a couple days ago because of holiday reporting. And it looked like things were going down, but we all said, no, this is going to go back up.
Yeah. And we continue to highlight this because it has been over the summer one of the big numbers that the governor liked to look at, and right. We watched it closely also for any indication on how he might make decisions on whether things should shut down or stay open. But at this point, we have heard no plans on the governor speaking this week. We know he has his State of the State address coming up next week. Would it be, Garrett? Next Monday-ish, Tuesday, around there. So that is the next planned time that we have set for interaction with him. Obviously, it's going to be a much different situation than we normally see year to year. Normally, it's held downtown at a large hotel and everybody's able to attend. This year, it will be.
There's always families involved. And
yes,
and all this other stuff. And
yeah.
Obviously none of that's going to happen.
Yeah, a very big event for those of you who've ever been to it, or for us on this side of covering an event like that. In this case, I believe he's giving the State of the State address simply from his office. So it'll be a much different scene this year. But that is the next scheduled time that we have. We do not have anything specific on his schedule that's been sent out to the newsroom where we have an availability to ask other questions surrounding that. And as I always promise, and if that changes, we will update all of you here on that. Okay, so Garrett, we touched on a ton of information here, talking about that R naught and some of the factors that go into that. That is recalculated each and every day. So that's still like a 9 a.m. update that comes out. So if you're interested in looking at that, we find that that is one of the easiest sites for you all to read, for everybody to read. So that's the kind of place we send everybody.
And other people do. There are other places that do R naught calculations, RT calculations, and they are going to be somewhat subjective. There's some people do specific type of algorithmic cleaning to the data to try to account for reporting delays. And so they are going to be a little different from here and there, but they should fairly line up within about 3 to 4 points of each other. It's very unlikely you're going to see one RT calculation at 0.9 and another at 0.15 or 1.5. You're not going to see that, but you will see, like, say, 3 to 4 or 5 points here and there.
Right. They all seem to fall within that error bar as well. Okay, let's get to some of the projections for the future, just because we have not looked at that in so long. I know there is a bit more noise in some of these graphs because they're talking about a rapid rollout and whether that's happening. We know that's not happening here in Arizona. We talked about some of those numbers before. Only 24% of our stockpile, if you will, our collection here in Arizona have been put into the arms of our healthcare workers and first responders. So the push is to increase that dramatically. To their credit, the numbers are going up faster now. They're getting the shots happening more often. I forgot how many pods are open today. I may not have even seen that. It's been as many as 5. Did you see, Garrett, how many pods were open?
I think it was oh my gosh. I think it was 3 or 4. Let me see.
Okay. Not that essential, but just for everybody who doesn't know what a pod is, that's the shortened word for basically their point of distribution to give out the vaccine. So one of those drive-through places where they're quickly getting people vaccinated, having them wait there the 15 minutes to make sure that they're okay, and then sending them on their way. If it's a Pfizer vaccine, they're going to be coming back in 21 days. If it's a Moderna vaccine, they're back in 28 days. Remember, the Moderna vaccine is 18 and older. The Pfizer vaccine is approved for 16 and older at this point. So we're not even to that age group just yet, it seems, Garrett, because we're still on those first responders and our healthcare workers, which are not going to be 16 years old, who are not vaccinating Doogie Howser at this point. But I'm aging myself with that reference. So let's look at these COVID-19 projections as they come out.
I was looking as you were talking, and the IHME projection, the one that I use often, is not updated since December 23rd.
Okay. So we have done it since then. We've talked about it since then.
Yeah, we cannot use that as a projection right now. It's way too stale.
Were you looking at IMHE? Is that the one you're referencing?
This is not IHME. This is the MIT. Although this isn't a projection, I was just going through and see if there was something interesting we can see about where this is. We were talking about the positivity ratio and where this thing thinks we are. Let's see.
IMHE hasn't updated since December 23rd either.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find, if we just give me one moment, I can find the COVID-19 forecasts, the group forecast.
Yeah.
So, and that will give us at least something.
Okay. As you're pulling that up, I'm just wondering in the comments, I'm seeing so many of you writing in. I would love to know, are you seeing people with masks out there? Are you seeing people be more lax? What are you seeing out on the streets in Phoenix when you're out running errands, when you're out and about? And then the second part of that question, are you changing things in your lifestyle right now because of this higher surge in numbers? So let's say maybe for the past few months you limited your grocery shopping trips, but and you went there less. Are you changing things up? Are you feeling less comfortable being out? How are things for you personally right now? How are things changing? I know school's closed for the last few weeks, so that might change things a bit. I'm seeing Debbie weigh in. 3 pods open today in Maricopa County. Debbie, thanks for that. I didn't get a check of that yet. The most I saw total was 5, so 3 today. Let's see. Teresa's writing, people wearing masks, check. I see masks, yes. Michelle writes, people being very lax, Ray says. Yeah, so kind of a mix of things out there. Daphne writes, not a lot of people wearing masks. I was super strict with the family. Still got it, and I'm pregnant. Oh, Daphne, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully your symptoms aren't too strong and that everything's okay with the baby as well. Let's see. Karen's writing, staying in my home. Katie, I feel like it's a daytime thing. If I go out, her comment's going by so quick. Lots of you commenting. Thank you. Okay, there it is. I feel like it's a daytime thing. If I go out early, everyone is masked. Later in the day, I feel like more unmasked. That might be. Up here in Prescott, Sierra writes, I would say 25% of people wearing masks. Brian's reminding everybody, it goes over the nose. I know. I think I need a t-shirt that says that to remind people. Wear it all the way. Let's see. Yeah, Penny's writing, people with their noses uncovered. Andrea's writing, Andrea, thanks for joining us. Andrea writes, less mask wearing and bigger crowds at the stores. I'm wondering also if any of you see crowds at the stores and you leave. Like this place is too busy, more busy than I'm used to, or I feel comfortable with. I'm gonna head out and go somewhere else. Teresa writes, grocery stores are germy, be safe. Yeah, thanks, you guys. I'm just always curious to see what it's like, what you're seeing. I'm out with my kids from time to time, and I just kind of see our own little neighborhood, and that's it. So, all right. Oh, Ray's writing, our neighbors had a medical emergency and deputies showed up not wearing masks. That's too bad. I wonder why that would happen. Sierra writes, work in retail, so I'm not allowed to leave. Oh, and Trudy writes, I leave if it's too crowded. Oh, so Sierra, you're saying you work there and it's busy. Oh, I think of all the people who are working in retail. I used to work in retail, and that is definitely a concern. I'm seeing a lot of the stores now will give you like a number, and they'll text your phone when you're able to come in, so they don't have too many people waiting out there, which is a kind of a smart idea. It's interesting, all the apps that have come out, Garrett, to be able to manage crowds, like smaller crowds, if you will. Like, let's say you work at a store at the mall, you could take a number or have them sign up and then text them when it's time to come back, instead of having to try to keep people 6 feet apart there in a to get into a store, and how they're managing that. It's become a whole nother layer of their job. Yeah, Syria writes, it's a nightmare currently. I know, I'm sure a lot of people were heading in for returns and different things like that after the holidays. So what'd you find, Garrett?
I'm going to go to the forecast hub.
Okay.
The reason I don't use it that often is because it only forecasts out a couple weeks, but it's
hey, that's okay. Everybody's just trying to get a clearer idea of how things look. So I feel like we can't even look that far ahead in life. Somebody talks to me about something 2 months out, I'm like, I can't even think about Thursday. Let's just deal with that first. So how does it look?
So this one shows that, and this is what we're talking about for the deaths. It does believe that 1 week ahead, we're going to be up to about 540 deaths a week. And then the next week after that, 576, and then 602, and then 4 weeks. So basically a month from now, it believes we're going to be at 622. So all 4 weeks show an increase in the number of deaths per week that we're going to be seeing.
622 a week?
Yes, 622 a week. They think we're going to get to about, and their confidence is about anywhere from 313 and 967. That's a pretty big range.
Yeah.
Their best guess is 622. So
967. My gosh.
But it does believe that we should be starting to see a number of cases begin to drop. So right now it believes we're about. Right now it says we're at 44,810 the week after January. It's actually, this is going to change because it's going to be much higher. It believes we're at 44,000. We're actually about 56,000. So we're at the very top of this. So it could change the direction of this as they recalculate. But it does believe right now that we should see slight decreases in the weeks ahead. And realistically, there is a good chance that as we get away from the holiday season, that we are going to start seeing. First, we might see some smaller increases, and then we should be seeing decreases here coming up fairly shortly.
So gosh, we're almost out of time. I just glanced up at the time, and we have just a few minutes left. So Garrett, as we've talked about so many times, and of all the things that change, this does not. We see sort of the curve of cases. We see a curve in hospitalizations. And sadly, we see a curve in deaths. So are we thinking that we are in a plateau, or any sign of hitting a peak or anything for at least the first count in that, which is the cases?
So we could be getting very close to that. We could be very, very close to getting to a summit. I think there's actually arguments to be made that we are probably within 2 weeks of a summit of these case numbers, and that we should start falling here shortly. As far as the breadth of the fall, well, that's hard to tell if we're going to, because we did see some small declines in December, but they were very slight. They were really, 3 to 4 or 5%. And are we going to see these falls, and how quickly? The chances are we're getting close to that peak. We should start seeing falls. However, as we talked about, I know people talk about cases. It's a case-demic, blah, 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 blah. But as you said, regardless of what people think about that, those hospitalizations and those deaths will always continue to increase as cases increase. So because there's obviously going to be people who have a mild symptom, people have moderate symptoms, and people have major symptoms, and those are the people who go to the hospital and sadly pass away. And so as long as our cases continue to increase, the number of deaths we see every day are also going to continue to increase.
So our range has sort of been, now just for Maricopa County, obviously the most populous one here in Arizona, has been about 7 to 11% end up hospitalized. I think we're right around that 7 or 8%.
Yeah, 7 to 11%
currently.
Where we look at now. Of course, that's to the entire age group. Obviously, when you look at it by different age groups, there's the younger age groups, it's closer to 1%, if under 1%. And then some of the older age groups, you're getting into the 14, 15%.
So when you're seeing those high case numbers come in on a day-to-day basis, times that by the 7% in there to get your number of people ending up in the hospital, and why we need to have licensed beds that are also staffed, not just beds, but someone to care to those COVID patients as well. I just saw a comment and I want to let you know, let's see. Oh, geez, here it is. George, the only question I have is why isn't the vaccine getting distributed quicker? That is a huge question, and one that our team is working on as well. We have, lots to answer about it, and we will do that for you tonight. Our crew is out there working on that. As I mentioned earlier, we have had 24% of our pile here in Arizona actually distributed into people's arms. We need to get that going quicker. Everybody agrees with that. That's a universal agreement, is we need to make people head through those pods faster, and what's the holdup there. So we have a reporter, I believe it's Cameron Pullum, on that tonight for us, and we'll have his reporting coming up at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. tonight. So we'll have the very latest on that, where they're finding that holdup to be. That's been the frustrating thing, though, Garrett, is getting these people through. We might have 100,000 people with the vaccine, but now we're getting to that. It's been 3 weeks, and the group got it already has to come back.
No, I can see the general populace, especially, thinking, okay, well, we've had 3 weeks for the healthcare frontline workers to get vaccinated. Can we move on to 1B and start getting that 65, 70, or the 75 plus population? Yeah. Let's get them, the people that are at the high risk, the ones that need this vaccine the most. Can we get them, in line as soon as possible?
Yeah. And Scott's writing, if over 65 to 75, how will they know when to go get the vaccine? We will let you know. As soon as we hear that group is a go, we're going to let you know. We're going to let you know how to sign up. We're going to be talking about it in every newscast. We're going to be talking about it right here so that you have the very latest information. So again, we're only in group 1A. We've got a ways to go in it. So that's our frontline healthcare workers.
You're in Canal or Gila County or Santa Cruz. Then you're in 1B.
Those two. Yeah. So, okay. We're going to have to leave it at that. We're already out of time. We want to thank all of you for joining us on here. We know we didn't get to everything today since it's our first day back after almost a week off, but hopefully it helped you better understand the numbers, and we'll get to even more information. We're back here tomorrow at about the same time, and we'll leave it at that. You can find all of our reporting coming up this evening, again, at 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 p.m. And then if you miss anything, we got that whole section. The link is right there, abc15.com/coronavirus. And you can find our reporting there. Garrett's Twitter account has awesome rundowns. About what time in the morning it varies, Garrett, when you're able to put that tweet out?
8:30 to 9 o'clock.
Okay.
In that time frame.
Get that coffee going, get those numbers going, and then he puts the list out. It's just a very helpful overview, and it's kind of a primer on what we're going to talk about later in the day with you right here. So you can find his Twitter account at Garrett_Archer. You can find mine at Katie Rammel, and you can also find me on Twitter. We talked about it a few times. If you need that graphic for vaccines, I'll be posting it there. Facebook.com/news from Katie. In the meantime, thanks again for joining us back here in this new year, 2021. And we will be back here tomorrow with you. In the meantime, be safe.